We do begin tonight with the news late today, the passing of Tina Turner, a legend, a survivor, a singer who redefined herself and became a global icon in her 40s and 50s and beyond.
These beatings were savage.
Yes, and not just for me, for everyone involved. When I had a nose problem, and I didn't know, I'd never had a broken nose before. It was cracked there or something, and
From one of the beatings.
She was really sick and not wanting people to know about it, but, you know, she had her dialysis machine in her house, and that's how she was doing it.
Sometimes a quiet house isn't a place for rest, but a place that hides pains people don't want to speak of. Behind the iron gates of Chateau Algonquin lies a story the world has overlooked. Tina Turner, the unyielding queen of rock and roll, passed away in silence, leaving behind a cold mansion brimming with flowers yet stacked with unanswered questions. Why did she choose seclusion here? What was kept hidden? Why did a global legend die in sorrow? What remains is not just memories, but a giant question mark about the truth behind the death of an icon. To find answers, we must dig deep into every corner of Tina Turner's past. On November 26, 1939, a biting cold wind swept through Nutbush, Tennessee, where endless cotton fields stretched out, white as clouds caught on the ground. In the rickety wooden house of the Bullock family, Anna Mae Bullock let out her first cry. No one could have guessed that the little black girl, born in a town divided by harsh racial lines, would become Tina Turner, the immortal icon of global music. But from the very first moment, fate seemed to have prepared cruel blows, as if testing her resilience from the cradle. Her family's poverty was so stark that hunger was a given, as familiar as breathing. Meals revolved around cornbread, beans, and sometimes just water. Her father, Floyd, toiled in the fields, his face always cold as stone. Her mother, Zelma, sharp but distant, seemed to have had her maternal warmth worn away by years of hardship. In their small home, endless arguments echoed through the night, shaking the already rotting wooden planks. Tina, too young to understand, could only huddle in a corner, watching her parents like two shadows tearing apart the fragile peace. Nutbush in the 1940s was no place for a black child with dreams. Racism was everywhere, from store signs to contemptuous stares. Tina grew up with a vague fear and a persistent loneliness that clung to her. Domestic violence made her world suffocating. Her father's blows left her mother bruised, and in Tina's mind, they left scars that wouldn't fade. She learned to stay silent, hide her tears, and deep within, a spark began to glow, a burning desire to escape the life she was living. In October 1947, on a chilly Sunday morning, Tina stepped into the local church. The atmosphere there was a stark contrast to her tense home. The hymns resonated like a balm for her scratched soul. She joined the choir, and the moment she sang, something shifted. Her voice wasn't just sound, it was a surge of suppressed emotions, a cry breaking free. For the first time, Tina realized the power within her. That moment opened a path, a faint light in the thick darkness, though the world outside the church remained as cold as ever. The summer of 1950 brought oppressive heat to Nutbush, making the air in the Bullock home stifling. Tina, now 11, was used to the fights, but this time things reached a breaking point. Zelma finally let go. After a brutal beating, she quietly left in the night, taking a few belongings, leaving her two daughters without a goodbye. Tina stood frozen, her heart crushed as she watched her mother's figure vanish. That departure left a wound that never healed. She and her sister Aileen were sent to live with their grandparents, strict people who lived by discipline, not affection. The new home lacked warmth, with no room for dreams or laughter. Tina learned to live without expecting anything, and the pain of her mother's abandonment lingered, aching like an open cut. In March 1952, spring brought a hopeful green, but for Tina, life only grew harsher. Floyd, her already distant father, suddenly remarried and vanished from his daughters' lives, leaving no note or even a parting glance. For the second time, Tina was abandoned. The feeling wasn't just fleeting sadness, it became an obsession etched into her mind as if it were a cruel fate she couldn't escape. Life with her grandparents was filled with nameless chores, picking cotton, cleaning, cooking, with no one to ask or care. With her brown skin and bright eyes, Tina lived under the scorn of those who saw her as lesser. But within her, music remained a flame that never died, the only belief that one day her voice would carry her away from this stifling land and reclaim the life that should have been hers. In September 1957, on a cool evening in St. Louis, Missouri, the lively atmosphere of a music club pulsed with pounding drums and electric guitar, as if calling to fate. Tina, just turning 18 and determined to find her own path, stood in the chaotic crowd, her heart racing. Everything here was different from Quiet Nutbush. Her senses came alive. On stage, a man caught her eye. Ike Turner. He wasn't just charismatic, he carried a dangerous edge behind his half-smile and sharp gaze. Tina couldn't have known that moment was the start of a new chapter, full of glory but also inescapable shadows. When she was invited to sing with the band, her voice stunned the room. Ike didn't look at her with admiration, but like a man who'd found a gold mine. The offer to join the band came quickly, and Tina, carrying her longing to break free from her hometown's confines, nodded without hesitation. But she didn't know she was stepping into a maze where the stage's bright lights were just a mask for the heavy darkness waiting to engulf her. In August 1960, the summer was hot and blazing. In the recording studio, Tina, now known as Tina Turner, recorded A Fool in Love with Ike. When the song hit the radio, America couldn't ignore it. Her voice, fierce and full of soul, didn't just move listeners, it was a call from the depths. The song became a massive hit, launching the Ike and Tina Turner Revue to stardom. But behind the dazzling success was a reality no one suspected. Ike controlled every move, every note, even her clothes and public appearances. He pulled her into a world of addiction, using cocaine as a tool to dominate her. Tina resisted at first, but fear eventually made her give in. For Ike, control wasn't just about music. It was physical and mental blows that left her drained. Every note she sang, every step she danced on stage was a fight for survival. In early April 1962, under the pale sunlight of Tijuana, Mexico, Tina walked into a small chapel where she and Ike were hastily married. No flowers, no celebration, no smiles. There was no joy in her heart, only the weight of invisible chains tightening around her. After that day, her role in Ike's life was sealed, not just a musical partner, but his personal possession. Day by day, Tina became a shadow of herself. He controlled everything, from the smallest details to her very thoughts. Every time she tried to speak up, a punch or a slap would silence her. Her body bore countless bruises, proof of a life filled with suffering. Once he hit her so hard her nose broke. Blood dripped onto the floor, but instead of compassion, Ike ordered her to clean it up and keep rehearsing. Despite the pain, Tina took the stage, singing as if nothing was wrong, because she knew the cost of stopping was even worse. After each show, when the stage lights dimmed, she returned to a brutal reality. Ike pushed her deeper into addiction. The money from sold-out shows never reached her hands. Everything was controlled, from her wardrobe to her meals. Tina, the woman who left audiences across America in awe with her voice, couldn't even choose her own dress. In her heart, life seemed to exist only in the form of music. It was the only flame still flickering, the one thing keeping her standing in the darkness, threatening to swallow every shred of hope. Each time she sang, it was like sending out a silent plea, hoping one day she'd break free from her chains. In May 1966, the Ike and Tina Turner Revue was at its peak. They released River Deep, Mountain High, an explosive track with an unmistakable edge. In Europe, fans went wild for Tina, the woman with blazing energy and a voice like thunder. But in America, the song didn't get the reception it deserved. Ike was furious, blaming Tina for not being captivating enough, not trying hard enough. The beatings grew harsher, as if he was taking out his anger on her very flesh. After a failed performance, Ike's rage hit a peak. He grabbed her hair, slammed her head against a wall, leaving a streak of blood. Tina didn't cry or fight back. She just glared at him with quiet fury, but to Ike, she was nothing more than a money-making machine, one that had to keep running at all costs. In late February 1968, in a cold, cheap hotel room, Tina hit rock bottom. After a vicious fight, she was left alone with fresh wounds on her skin. The face in the mirror was unrecognizable. Swollen, bruised, eyes drained of life. Memories flooded back, her childhood in Nutbush, her mother, her father, and those who turned their backs. Thoughts of death crept in, and in a moment of despair, she swallowed 50 Valium pills, hoping for a final escape. But fate pulled her back. She woke up in a hospital, with no one asking why. Ike showed up, cold and uncaring, demanding she get back to work. And like a painful habit, Tina took the stage again, her body broken and spirit torn. But this time, amid the ashes, a tiny spark of life began to grow, a quiet rebellion waiting to erupt. In early March 1971, the spring sun couldn't chase away the darkness enveloping Tina's life. The Ike and Tina Turner Revue's cover of Proud Mary exploded like a hurricane, sweeping charts and electrifying audiences, earning a Grammy the next year. On stage, Tina was fire, big hair, blazing moves, a symbol of fierce vitality. But offstage, she was wilting. Ike's cocaine addiction turned him into an uncontrollable shadow, canceling shows without warning, beating Tina in front of the band, and burning through money on drugs. Rumors began to swirl. Some articles hinted that Tina was falling into addiction too, tarnishing the image she'd fought to build. Though she resisted drugs, she was trapped in silence, every move, every breath manipulated by Ike. Amid constant fear, her longing for freedom burned brighter, a yearning to live free. From 1972 to 1975, the pressure grew heavier. Tabloids fabricated feuds with other divas like Diana Ross or Aretha Franklin, casting Tina as a player in a soul world power struggle. Stories of jealousy, money, and affairs painted her as a complex figure in the public eye. Though she stayed silent, the music industry's harsh expectations and public scrutiny drained her spirit. Ike was no longer just an abusive husband, he was a threat to her life. His chilling warnings about leaving kept Tina, now a mother of 4, 2 of Ike's sons, her own son, and their shared child, in a trap with no escape. She wanted to protect her kids, but she could barely keep herself safe. In July 1976, on a sweltering Dallas summer night, Tina chose to shed her fear to reclaim her life. After a brutal beating in a hotel, her face swollen and heart pounding, she decided to flee. With just 36 cents and a credit card in her pocket, she slipped out of the hotel without looking back. She hid with friends, moving constantly to avoid being found. Each step was a brush with danger, but also a step closer to the freedom she'd long craved. At 36, with no money or fame, Tina had only her voice and an unbreakable will. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but going back was no longer an option. By March 1978, after nearly 2 years of grueling legal battles, Tina officially divorced Ike. She won the case but left nearly empty-handed, keeping only the name Tina Turner and a pile of debt from canceled shows. At 38, she stepped into a new world where the music industry had transformed, and young, vibrant artists like Madonna ruled. She was seen as outdated, a shadow of the past. As a black woman and abuse survivor, her path back was steep. She sang in small clubs and noisy casinos, where some came just to see the woman Ike beat. But Tina didn't give up. Through Nichiren Buddhism, she found peace and broke free from addiction. Every performance, no matter how rundown the venue, she sang like there was no tomorrow. She believed that as long as she had her voice, there was still hope. From 1978 to 1983, Tina's comeback was a series of dark nights strung together. On cramped stages under dim lights, her eyes carried the scars of years past. With no home or assets, she crashed on friends' couches, surviving on dry bread. While young artists dazzled with modern, sexy styles, Tina, a nearly 40-year-old black woman society, had cast aside, faced skeptical looks. Age, gender, and race stood like towering walls. But she didn't stop. With steady Buddhist chants like a lifeline, she kept fighting. Every night, even in a dingy bar, she performed like she was singing to the world. Yet the ghosts of her past never let go. One winter night in 1979, in a rented apartment, Tina woke to a knock at the door. No one was there, but she felt Ike's shadow lingering. Friends warned her he'd hired people to follow her, sending threats. She lived in constant unease, always looking over her shoulder, fearing she'd be dragged back into the nightmare. But the more she feared, the more she told herself not to quit. In May 1984, spring sunlight stretched across the streets, and Tina Turner, at an age when new beginnings seemed impossible, became a music industry earthquake. Her album Private Dancer hit like a raw reckoning with her painful past, thrusting her name back with fierce intensity. What's Love Got to Do with It swept radio stations, her gritty, soulful voice pulling listeners into a defiant anthem of survival. From America to Europe, audiences were stunned, not just by a veteran's return, but by a woman who'd climbed from the abyss to emerge victorious. Millions of records sold, 3 Grammys won, and the title, Queen of Rock and Roll, was cemented at the peak of her career. On stage, her tireless legs, wild hair, and radiant smile masked years of stacked pain. But even in her brightest moment, Tina kept fighting. She didn't just want to be remembered as a survivor, but as a true artist, despite age, prejudice, and old wounds still raw. Tragically, in early 1985, as she reclaimed her spotlight, Ike claimed in Spin magazine that their marriage was never legally valid. The statement stabbed through the past she'd tried to bury. 17 years of endurance, scars, and blood, dismissed with a callous remark. The media buzzed, exploiting the story like a sensational drama. For Tina, it wasn't news. It was a wound torn open, a pain she thought had settled, now clawed back to life. In October 1985, as golden leaves fell in London, a chance meeting opened a brighter chapter. In a light-filled room, Tina met Erwin Bach, a German music executive, much younger, with a calm demeanor and genuine gaze. His kindness was a stark contrast to all she'd known. Her heart, long closed off, stirred, not because he admired the legend Tina Turner, but because he saw the woman behind the spotlight. The world, however, wasn't kind to a powerful woman loving a younger man. The media mocked and scrutinized, hurling snide remarks. Of course, Tina didn't back down. Amid the storm of public opinion, she held fast to the man who brought her rare peace in a turbulent life. That same year, she made waves collaborating with icons like Mick Jagger and David Bowie and starring in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, a leap beyond music. Yet every step came with whispers and judgmental stares, as if the world couldn't accept a woman like her deserving happiness. From then until 1989, Tina kept rising, but success brought controversy. She shifted from R&B and soul to rock and pop, drawing a huge white audience, which led some in the black community to accuse her of losing her roots. Racial critiques emerged, as if the girl from Nutbush, who once sang hymns in a rural church, no longer belonged to her origins. She once said music was about connection, not race or roots. But no matter how she explained, the attacks followed, leaving a void in her heart. Through those years, she toured relentlessly, roaring under stage lights like an unyielding warrior. But deep within, a shadow of doubt and hurt lingered. In the fall of 1986, her memoir I, Tina, was published, laying bare the years under Ike's dark shadow. The pages detailed every blow, every night she cried in silence, every moment she considered death as an escape. It wasn't just a personal story, it was a voice for thousands of forgotten women. The public was shaken, yet not everyone stood by her. Ike took to the media, denying her claims, even mocking her courage to share her pain. Society split. Some supported, others doubted, calling it a publicity stunt. But for Tina, their opinions didn't matter. Telling her story was about reclaiming control of her life. Each word was a step toward the light, even if it meant facing memories no one would want to relive. In June 1993, the summer burned bright, and Hollywood's spotlight turned to a familiar name, Tina Turner. The film, What's Love Got to Do with It, hit theaters, pulling audiences into the painful and bold story of a woman rising above horror. Theaters were packed, whispers filled the air, but behind the glamour, Tina couldn't feel proud. At 53, she faced a distorted image of herself, a passive, weak victim. the opposite of the woman who broke her chains and stepped out of the dark. The feeling of being exposed, her voice stolen, choked her. While the public buzzed and the media took sides, with Ike's family lashing out, Tina chose silence, not out of agreement, but because she was done digging up old wounds. Every time she passed a movie poster, the memories flooded back like a torrent. Tears, blood, and nights with no escape. In August 1995, the summer sun shone over Lake Zurich, bringing the peace Tina had sought her whole life. She left America, settling in Küsnacht, a small town about 10 kilometers from Zurich, renting Chateau Algonquin with its classic architecture and elegant iron gates. A small sign on the gate, with a humorous note, declared her new life. No more rushing, no more control. She blended into the community, strolling by the lake, shopping at markets, savoring familiar foods. Locals loved her not for fame, but for her calm and approachable nature. Tina became part of the town, funding Christmas lights, donating a rescue boat named after her. In that timeless setting, among European paintings and serene lake views, she finally felt the wounds from Nutbush and her past begin to close. In May 1997, a gentle spring breeze blew across Lake Zurich as Tina sat by a window, quietly reflecting on her life. She chose Switzerland for its privacy, its stillness, and above all, for the quiet love with Erwin Bach. No longer wanting to be the center of attention or live under camera flashes, she found the freedom she'd always craved. Peaceful mornings, bike rides on winding paths, yoga in the park, all wove a new rhythm. But memories weren't easily soothed. Nightmares sometimes pulled her back to old rooms filled with screams and looming shadows. She turned to meditation and Buddhist chants, but some darkness clung to her mind, like shadows that refused to fade. By January 1998, winter blanketed the garden, and Tina and Erwin made Chateau Algonquin their lifelong home. The name, a nod to her Native American ancestry, was a way to hold on to something primal in her new life. She tended to every detail of the house, as if mending pieces of her soul. But peace was fragile. Ike Jr., one of her two adopted sons, appeared in the press, accusing her of turning her back on him and Michael. His words cut like a knife. She'd tried to stay in touch, quietly supported them, but the distance only grew. The past had stolen her chance to be a mother, and now it wounded her again. Ike's sons, Ike Jr. and Michael, whom she raised as her own, grew distant after the divorce. Endless tours and years away from home kept Tina from their daily lives. Ike Jr. carried a sense of abandonment, while Michael quietly bore his own sadness. For Tina, motherhood was never easy. The scars of abuse didn't just mark her body, they stole the softness of her emotions. Though she loved her children, she didn't know how to bridge the gap, and the emotional distance grew like a crack too wide to mend. In October 1999, another cold autumn brought a loss words couldn't capture. Her mother, Zelma, passed away in America. Tina, living in Switzerland, received the news in shock, and the world seemed to pause. Their relationship was never healed. The woman who once coldly criticized her, who never defended her in her hellish marriage, was gone without ever truly holding her close. Tina had tried to hold on, had hoped, but her mother's love was always out of reach. That day, in the quiet villa by Lake Zurich, she sat alone, tears falling not just for her mother's death, but for the truth that the embrace and warmth she'd craved would never come. Through so much pain, by May 2009, spring bloomed vibrantly as Tina took the stage for her final tour, marking 50 years in music. She still shone, igniting thousands of fans, but offstage, her body was exhausted. When she took her last step off the stage, she knew it was time to let go of the spotlight. Back at the lakeside villa, she lived slowly with Erwin, among books and quiet afternoons. In October 2013, on a chilly afternoon, a sudden stroke brought her down. When she woke, much of her strength was gone, and she faced a harsh truth. The body that endured beatings and captivated millions was no longer the same. In spring 2016, more bad news struck. Colon cancer, coupled with kidney failure, sent her health spiraling. Every step was a battle, every pain a reminder of her limits. Images from her abusive past haunted her, robbing her of peaceful nights. She kept chanting, seeking an inner escape, but the darkness crept closer. In a moment of near despair, Irwin made an unthinkable choice. In April 2017, he donated a kidney to her, proof of unconditional love. The surgery succeeded, but her vitality wasn't the same. Tina began preparing for what was coming, no longer afraid, only wishing to leave in peace. But in July 2018, amid a stifling summer, an unimaginable shock hit. Craig, her eldest son from a relationship before Ike, took his life with a gun at his home. At 59, he left quietly, leaving behind a mother battling illness and the weight of memories. Craig, the son she loved deeply, had witnessed Ike's brutality toward her. Those lingering traumas ultimately won. When Tina got the call, her world collapsed. She sat silently in the villa, trembling hands clutching an old photo, eyes fixed on Craig's smile. Now only a memory. Though she shared her grief on social media, no words could capture the void growing in her heart. She tormented herself, wondering if her years chasing fame had left her son alone in the dark. 2 years later, in June 2020, her health had declined so much she rarely left home. Though the villa was sold to a Swiss businesswoman, she and Irwin stayed on as tenants, seeking peace by the shimmering Lake Zurich. But that peace didn't last. In March 2021, spring arrived quietly. Tina sat by the villa's window, weary eyes gazing at the lake. At 81, she was still a living icon, but her body no longer obeyed. Cancer, kidney failure, and haunting memories of Ike made each day heavy. When the documentary Tina aired on HBO, her life was laid bare to millions once more. It traced her journey from Nutbush to global stardom, from darkness to glory. But Tina didn't want those memories revived. She participated reluctantly, feeling her past was coldly unearthed. The film painted a strong yet wounded woman, which troubled her deeply. She didn't want to be defined by pain, but as a warrior, not a victim. In September 2021, as autumn sunlight gilded the lake, Tina made a big decision. With Irwin, she bought the Staffa Estate, a sprawling $76 million property not far from Kusnacht, with 260,000 square feet, 10 buildings, a private lake, stream, dock, and pool. Once rumored to be eyed by Roger Federer, it became their weekend retreat, while Chateau Algonquin remained home. Tina poured her heart into decorating with modern art, soft rugs, and wide lake view windows. Though her strength was fading, she kept life vibrant in every detail, a final defiance against fate. The months that followed saw Tina nearly vanish from public view. No stages, no interviews, no lights. Her time passed quietly with Irwin, lakeside walks, or sitting under trees listening to birds. She savored favorite foods, from lemongrass soup to spicy Asian dishes, and sometimes let her mind drift to Nutbush, where childhood memories, though bitter, held a faint warmth. Once a symbol of strength, she now faced reality. Not every battle could be won, but she wasn't afraid. Buddhism taught her impermanence, and she embraced it with the calm of someone who'd faced storms her whole life. In December 2022, another loss struck. Ronnie, her son with Ike, died from colon cancer complications. Their relationship had been strained, especially after he reconnected with Ike. Though she tried to mend things, the gap never fully closed. Ronnie's death, just years after Craig's, was a final cut to her already torn heart. By January 2023, Switzerland's winter still gripped the land, and Tina's health faded like the trees in the cold. Her body weakened rapidly, her once powerful hands trembling. On the morning of May 24, 2023, Chateau Algonquin was peaceful as ever. Lake Zurich sparkled, the garden rustled in the breeze. But Tina could no longer take it in. She lay in bed, holding Irwin's hand tightly. There was no more pain, only gentle calm. After a long fight with cancer, kidney failure, strokes, and countless close calls, her body reached its limit. She passed quietly, like the final note of a stormy life's song. Irwin sat beside her, tears falling silently, knowing the woman he loved had found freedom. Tina Turner's death sent shockwaves worldwide. Bernard Doherty, her longtime associate, confirmed the passing of the Queen of Rock and Roll. The world fell silent. From America to Europe, from Nutbush's dusty streets to London's dazzling stages, people paused to honor the woman who left an indelible mark on music history. Media outlets hailed her, a symbol of extraordinary resilience, rising from life's darkest depths to radiant heights. But in Kusnacht, where she spent her final years, the loss felt more intimate. To those who saw her in the market, strolling by the lake, or at local events, Tina wasn't just a star. She was a warm, approachable neighbor. The small town where she funded Christmas lights and named a rescue boat suddenly felt empty. The gates of Chateau Algonquin became a place of farewell. On May 25th, red roses, candles, and handwritten notes piled up at the iron gates. Hastily written messages expressed heartfelt love, gratitude, and unspoken admiration. A steady stream of people came, quiet but earnest, turning the serene villa into a sea of tributes. Local authorities kept the area calm, letting people mourn in their own way. Meanwhile, family and close friends chose privacy to say goodbye. Erwin Bach, her companion of nearly 4 decades, held a quiet funeral at Chateau Algonquin. Amid candles and the soft melody of What's Love Got to Do with It, only the closest were present. Longtime friends like Cher and Angela Bassett, along with other artists, shared their grief. Each recalled final memories, not just to mourn, but to preserve Tina's spirit, a woman who could smile even as time ran short. Chateau Algonquin, her haven in her final years, was proposed by locals as a memorial site, though the decision remains pending to give Erwin time to grieve. Nearby, the Staffa estate, bought in 2021, carried a different dream. After her passing, Erwin began plans to turn it into a museum. Her stage costumes, awards, and mementos would be preserved as pieces of a legend. Though still in early stages, Staffa hints at becoming a musical shrine. Meanwhile, their French Riviera villa, once a retreat, fell silent, like a chapter closed. Tina's estate, estimated at $250 million, included properties and music rights. But her true legacy isn't in numbers. Songs like River Deep, Mountain High, and Private Dancer live on as the voice of an unyielding spirit. The musical Tina and the film What's Love Got to Do with It continue to inspire those hurt by life. She was a vivid symbol of rebirth, especially for women and people of color in entertainment, proving an unbroken heart could overcome poverty, violence, and illness. Tina's passing closed a chapter of history but opened an immortal legacy. From Nutbush's poor fields through brutal years with Ike to the bright lights of grand stages and finally the quiet sky by Lake Zurich, she lived a full life, painful but glorious. Her mother abandoned her, her sons left too soon, illness tormented her, but her faith never dimmed. The sea of flowers at the villa's gate proves the world's love for her. The planned Staffa Museum vows her name will endure. Tina Turner, Anna Mae Bullock, sang with both pain and hope, and that voice will echo, not just in music, but in the hearts of all who fell and rose again.